Fore play presented by Barstool Sports. It is January 19th, 2021. We are back. We got a lot to talk about. It always feels like that. It always feels like in the golf world, which I guess makes sense because there's golf tournaments Thursday through Sunday, and we record our last show typically on Wednesdays, put it out on Thursdays. But it always feels like a lot happens. A lot has happened since the last time that we did this show. Kevin Kisner went a little bit viral with some of his quotes from his press conference about being in 20th place. Justin Thomas got dropped by Polo Ralph Lauren. That caught the golf world by storm. Tiger Woods documentary, we can get into that. Kevin Na has won for the fourth time since the beginning of 2018. TaylorMade and more on that front coming. So we got a lot to get to. It is starting to get to that point, I would say. I mean, you guys are obviously in the Northeast, but there's Masters commercials a little bit during football. You get a lot of Christmas gifts that are in the golf realm. So you've been looking at golf balls or golf clubs. Maybe you ordered a little something. Maybe you bought a little something new. It's starting to get into late January. You're couple months away from you get a few nice days in March. And next thing you know, it's sort of, you're jumping right into golf season for people. So I think people are starting to get jacked up. A lot of that comes with the Hawaii swing, seeing guys at Kapalua, seeing guys at Waialae playing golf in beautiful weather. You start taking shadow swings in your apartment or your home if you've been in a winter location. So it just kind of feels like golf's hitting its stride a little bit. Tiger Woods will be back hopefully next week playing at the Farmers. So it feels good to be a golf fan. Feels like we're in a good place. I'm excited to talk a little golf. How are you, fellas? What's going on?
Gate, when you said January 19th, it could have been any day, honestly. It feels like when you said that, I was like, what day? What month is it? But I agree with you. I think I saw Trent's face light up too. So I didn't know if you were thinking the same thing I was about that day, because it could be, any day as far as I'm concerned. With COVID and being locked in, it's like, I'm not moving.
It's obviously a little different for us right now. But because I've been in my apartment for 11 straight days. But once I get back and I get reacclimated to the real world, I'll realize what month it is. But I agree with you, Riggs. I'm today, when I woke this morning, I woke up and I said, I'm getting my perfect putting mat out and I'm going to start rolling some balls. Like, I had it out a little bit earlier in the week when I was cooped up. So I put it away. I might as well have just kept it out, but I'm going to get that puppy out and start rolling some putts. Yeah. I think it's 45 degrees in New York right now. So it's not as cold as it's been. And maybe it's starting to turn a little bit of a corner, but I'm just ready. And we live a bit of a weird life where we'll go some places and we'll play a little bit of golf or we'll take some swings, and then you'll get the bug even more. So I am excited for, it might be a little too early to start talking about the weather turning, but I'm starting to get in that mode. I'm starting to stare at my clubs a little bit more. I'm going to get the perfect putting mat out. Like, I'm ready to go.
How you doing, I think Frank? It's just, how are you holding up there, Frank?
I'm holding up okay. It's hockey season. I'm a full-blown lunatic right now. It's hard to be around me.
Hockey player now.
Take anything I say seriously. Hockey player. I'm missing my fucking next game. I'm missing my game tonight when this podcast comes out because we're traveling for work. But, man, I have the bug, man. I want to play hockey so bad. I want to get back out there. I've been thinking about it. I put on my rollerblades just to, tighten them up the other day. I think it's a little too early to be talking about weather in New York. New York, sometimes it'll hit you with a crazy snowstorm in February. I think right now is oddly warm. You get out of I come out of my house, I wear my big jacket, and it's that first step. You're like, whoa, holy shit, it's warm out. Then the wind starts hitting you. You're like, okay, it's still January. But I think we do have some snow coming up in February, if I'm not mistaken. Masters commercials, love it. The whole thing, just the idea of springtime at some point coming. Hopefully the world starts to get to a more normal place by then. But yeah, I'm holding in there. Like I said, I'm fucking hunkering down watching hockey. That's all I'm doing.
What's your guys' favorite month of the year?
Oh,
you should see. So folks, if you're watching YouTube, you can see, but you should see just the sunker back rolling of the head move that everyone did just to physically signify a serious racking of the brain of what their answers are. Mine is April. I think the month of April, you have March Madness concluding, you have the Masters, and then afterwards, having lived in the Northeast for pretty much over half of my life, is when you start to get nice weather, becomes a little bit more consistent. Not always through April. You get some shit weather in April, but once the Masters finishes up, you've got Stanley Cup playoffs are starting. You got NBA playoffs. You're into that. And you got right into all of the light at the end of the tunnel is now right in front of you, and here it comes. You got late spring, you got summer, you got fall. It's all in front of you, and you've made it through winter, and it's blossoming, and fucking flowers are popping. It's just a great time to be alive.
I think it used to be March, but the reason was I have a birthday in March. A lot of my buddies have birthdays in March. We used to love St. Patrick's Day. We love March Madness. Still love March Madness. Feel like a lot of things were happening in the month of March, but now that seems like an outdated. Like for me, like my birthday month is not the month where I'm like I'm excited for this. I'm too old for that. Like I can't have my birthday month be the reason why it's my favorite month. So it's not March anymore. It's probably April. I think the majority of people, if you ask them, especially if they're sports fans, they would say April. It's the most packed month.
You could say March, your little birthday bitch. That's fine.
It's great that you changed your favorite month because of your birthday. I love that was like the reason where you're like, no, I've got to grow up. This can't be my favorite month anymore. I love that being the reasoning.
It felt juvenile. It felt juvenile for March.
It sounds juvenile, honestly. So.
But it does have good things. Like I said, St. Patrick's Day, March Madness, all that good stuff. But April, I think as you get a little bit older, I think April, just because the weather does start to turn and that does become a big factor in your life. Like as much as I grew up in winters in Iowa and like it was fine. Obviously you get a blizzard here and there. But like once that's all over with and you have a few months just to relax and you don't have to scrape the ice and snow off of your car anymore, that's a good time to be alive.
So I agree with you that like April is like the upside month when we're starting to feel good, things are starting to blossom. But I think in a nutshell, September is just the best month of the year every year. I think that's my number one. It's still very warm, ocean's still warm, everything's still golden. Obviously, the negative side of it is you're going into the winter, you're going into an area where you don't want to be. But if you were going to bottle up September, I would take 12 months of September for the year.
I almost said October for that same reason.
Yeah.
And for big guys like you and I don't know if you'll relate to this. The summer isn't a great time. Like everybody's like, summer's here, woo! It's like, all right, now I'm just gonna be hot and I'm gonna be wearing clothes that I don't look that good in. I don't want to do this. That's awful. Like spring, at least the beginning, you're starting to wear sweatshirts and you look better. But summer, I actually summer is probably my least favorite time of the year, just because I'm not built for it.
Dude, yeah, I can't agree more with you don't look good in the summer. Like I hate I love putting on a hoodie. It's an odd month, but like the more I think about it, and the weather sucks and you can't golf and you can't watch baseball, but like December has so much stuff happening in it. It's the time to like party and have fun and see friends. You have Christmas Eve, you have Christmas, you have fucking New Year's Eve. It's like that whole week. You have no work. We're off for 2.5 weeks at Barstool. Like everything about that month is like you can go away like at that time. Like everything about that month to me is very much like, let's just get to December because it's like a free for all. December feels like a free for all. Like it doesn't feel like a real month. It feels like time off.
And this will go against my juvenile argument, but December's got a lot of magic in it.
It does. It really does. It's got Christmas magic, the movies, like 25 days till Christmas. You're starting to watch all the movies. You're drinking a little bit heavier beer. Everything about it just feels good. And yeah, the summer's tough. Like I got tan this summer. I don't know if you guys remember that. I got tan this summer. My mustache was no, I actually got tan this summer. If you look back at pictures, it's outrageous. But the problem is I got a little too comfortable this summer taking my shirt off. And there's some pictures of me out there that are not good. I mean, one of my friends I noticed this week, she has on her icon when I text her is a picture of me from this like pool party. And there's just like shadows underneath my tits and my gut is hanging out and I'm wearing like a bucket hat. And I said, now what the fuck is this? Because like, I just noticed it, and they're like, "Oh, we all think that's the worst picture of anyone ever." So we like all use it as your profile picture. I said, "What the fuck is happening right now?" I that bad. Like, yeah. Did you see it 2 days ago? Well, it went viral. Like, yeah, you look bad.
That actually just reminded me. I'm absolutely changing your profile on my phone to Fat Face Frankie. I'm doing that right now.
Dude, I was like, there's no way my friend's thinking me like this. I was walking around with my tits out all summer. It just looked horrible. Dude, you had to see, you know what I'm saying? Like the light was hitting it from the over my shoulder.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
you
actually
get a
there
bad
was a
light.
piece
You're
Huge
adding
shadow under your
shadows.
boob.
Yeah. Anytime you're adding shadows, that's bad. It's like
yes.
something on your body's creating a shadow.
Lurch,
Correct.
how much
It's an overhang.
Lurch, how much weight do you think you'd have to lose before you could take your shirt off and people wouldn't say something? They would be like, boy, that's tough. And I'm directing that question also at myself because I'm pretty sure it's 60 pounds.
No, you directed it right at me. So I'll answer.
No, I was gonna, when you answered, I was gonna answer as well. I think I'm 60 to 70 pounds away from being able to take my shirt off without.
Now, this is going to come off outrageous. I think that I wear it well. So like I'm 260, 255 right now. I think what needs to go in order for me to like just like run with a shirt or like be outside with a shirt off and not people to be like he's a big dude is to get rid of the back grossness.
Yep.
Just that back fat, that like layer of thickness on a back that is just ugly where you can't really see my spine anymore. That's what I would like to go in order for me to be comfortable outside. That's really that's what
By the way, Bagel Boy, did you see it was National Bagel Day the other day?
I did. I got a lot of like random
How many did you
tweets
take
about
down
that.
there, big fella?
Well, so when I'm on like COVID or not feeling well, I try not to eat bread is a big thing that I do. So my mom told me that when I was a kid, so I really avoid all bread. So I didn't have any, but I did get a lot of tweets like, dude, I heard that you have like 4 bagels in the morning and I just had 1.5 and I'm full. And yeah, I mean, I love bagels.
You've been one known to lose control around a large sum
Right.
of bagels, I would say.
Right. My favorite was when I was working in like the startups and it was just like a sales desk and there was only like 15 of us. And then we'd have our tech team and we'd order lunch in, we'd order breakfast in. And I would take 15 trips over to this bagel spot and just eat every damn bagel there. These guys would like cut up like a half and have one of those. And then they'd see me just stumble over it because I had to walk by all of them and all their desks to get to like where the lunch was served. And I would just hammer these things back. They looked at me like I was the biggest freak show walking through that place.
Yeah, I mean,
so no bagels for me this time, but I'll be back, and I look forward to when I can slam another one down.
yeah, I had people messaging, texting me about like, hey, how many bagels do you think Lurch has had today? It's like it's bagel day for the big fella. So I was curious. Yeah, I figured get good answers for the people. Okay, like I said, we got a lot to get to. I will say that during the COVID diagnosis, when you're sick, it's not a good idea to drink. So afterwards, once you're over that diagnosis and once you've hopefully defeated that disease, one of the more exciting things to do is get back into the cocktail game. I got Frankie wiping his screen like it's the Blair Witch Project over here. So it's a
something going on with the screen's driving me crazy.
What is
You always
it? The
have an
lighting,
issue with
you
your
suddenly
screen, I
don't
feel
look
like.
good again. I mean, you look horrible and pale 9 times out of 10.
You do look the same color as the wall behind you.
I'm in just a very white room. I always thought that being surrounded by white would make me look less white, but that just defeats my ideology of that.
Like the strings on your hoodie, the shirt you're wearing, and the wall behind you, and your face are sort of kind of the same color.
Yeah, it's washing you out, as they say.
Right. Oof. And then the red is actually so red that your face isn't that color, so it's a little.
It's actually crimson. Roll Tide.
Or Go Crimson. That's Harvard. So our mascot's a color, which is a little frustrating. But anyways,
that is frustrating.
We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Owens. What I'm trying to express to you folks is that once you go a few weeks and you're really looking for a nice adult beverage, there's nothing better than having a little Owens mixers lying around because you can whip up an expert and elite, a nice craft cocktail all by your lonesome, all by yourself. Maybe you're having a few people over, entertaining, hopefully in a socially distanced, responsible manner. But you pour in your little Owens mixer, maybe transfusion mixer that we created, maybe mint cucumber lime, maybe the grapefruit with a little tequila for Lurch and his Paloma game, whatever the hell it might be. is very, very simple. You can go to Amazon. If you have yourself a little Amazon account, you get the next day shipping. It's very simple. Like I said, get the transfusion, get the other mixers that they have. You pour them in with liquor, with a little ice maybe, and boom, you've got an awesome cocktail. So Owens Mixers, if you haven't tried them, if you like to mix up your drink, if you like to impress folks when they come over, if you like to maybe get yourself a little cocktail glass, a little rocks glass, a little highball glass, and whip up a good cocktail, Owens is the best way to do it. So big thanks to Owens. And again, go check them out on Amazon. Scheduling. We've got a lot of people, again, we're curious after we put out the teaser. Big credit to Frankie and to our production staff for the teaser game. I do think Frankie's addicted to teasers now, which is very beneficial to the Foreplay podcast and to our entire brand. He's now going fully Lurch with a little space background.
Does that make me look less white?
Yes, I think so.
Really?
Definitely. Yeah, without question.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, your little rosy cheeks now, I feel like you can see.
It gives you
Before they
definition
just
too.
blended
Like the
into the
white
wall.
wall, you just kind of blend into the white wall.
I am addicted to teasers. It's a thrill and a feeling that makes me feel alive. It's something that I didn't know I needed. Although I say that now, but if I think back, like I was making teasers for like Borelli's restaurant back when I was like 15 and 16. Like we would have fucking karaoke night, and I would do like a couple of flashes from like black to color, like tune, like Friday night. Like it's just fucking for like 12 people on Facebook. So I've always had that like thrill of wanting to make something that was engaging and like, oh shit, edging is what we call it in the sexual world. So yeah, I enjoy doing that, and I'm looking forward to making more teasers. I think the teaser that came out for TaylorMade came out really well, like really good. Like I was really happy with that thing. I've watched it a million times.
The combination of the music with the graphics, with the actual footage and the names and the human beings that were present in that teaser, it was as good as it could possibly. Plus the nature of the news was so surprising people. So you wrap all that up into a teaser, comes out great. Now, a lot of people are asking since then, what's the deal? Well, we have a series of videos that we filmed. I don't know, somewhere around the 10, 11, 12 range. We filmed multiple style videos, with each person that you saw in that. So what we're going to do is starting this week, we're going to roll out our video from the kingdom of us all getting fitted, that whole process, what it's like. Spoiler alert, it's probably the coolest experience for any golf nut that you could imaginably go through. Like you take the greatest thing, maybe outside of playing like a top 5 bucket list course in the world, this is a golf nut is the coolest experience that you could possibly have. You get so dialed in on a personal, intimate level with your guy, with your fitter who goes through TrackMan, all of the stats. He knows exactly and very quickly how to tweak your clubs from the shaft to the club head to the lie angle to all kinds of different stuff. And then immediately track the results on TrackMan. So there's no BS. There's no like, oh, that one felt a little different, or look, it doesn't matter. They just give you the numbers. They get it all perfectly fit and curated to your swing, your game, from your wedges to your irons, to your drivers, to your putter. They got the putting lab that we talked about. That's what we went through. So all 4 of us went to the kingdom. We got fitted for all of our clubs, for the drivers, the Sim 2s, the irons, everything. So we've got that video coming out this week, either Tuesday night or Thursday night. We're working on that right now, but we will obviously announce it on the social media platforms. So check all of that out. And then we're going to be rolling out all the videos made with the TaylorMade athletes, from DJ to Morikawa to Fleetwood to Wolf to everybody. So programming note, those things are coming out. They're going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. On that note, Trent, I'm surprised that you're going to putt, because I've been holding off on using the putter that I have right now on a putting mat or doing anything until I get the TaylorMade custom fit, custom built, custom perfectly to Lurch's standards putter until I start putting again. So I don't want to throw any kind of armor until I get that putter. So I've been obviously locked up, and I've been avoiding putting because I'm waiting until I get that putter, so that I know it's kind of perfect to me.
Yes, but also, and I had previously stated this, that my fitting was 80% lesson and 20% fitting.
True.
I just have things that he taught me in that room that I didn't have before. And I wrote them all down again in my notes, but I just need to start doing them and working them in. And then when I get the perfectly crafted putter in my hands, it'll just be seamless with the new stroke. So I just need to, it's almost like my new stroke needs to be worthy of my new putter. So I need to get that
Yes, I get that.
before I get the putter. So it's a little bit of both, but I hear you.
That makes
There's no
sense.
negative to
I
grinding
probably-
on your stroke.
No, there isn't. I want that putter that's like perfect to
Yeah.
whatever stroke I have right now, and just use that, and then just dial in 7-footers straight putts and make as many of those as I can in a row.
I will say this.
Um,
I've noticed I went on Friday. I went to hit Saturday. I went to hit golf balls for the first time since, in 2 weeks because quarantine and everything else. And I have good clubs. I have TaylorMade clubs from last year. Like literally
For sure.
less than 3 weeks ago, like the Sim was just the top of the line driver. And dude, when I went and I pulled this stuff out, because we all got fitted, we're waiting within the next week or so. Our new clubs are going to arrive and they're great Sim 2s. And I legit went and I was like, I'm using antiques and I might as well have like
You
old hickory
spoiled
clubs
shit.
out here that I'm slapping around. Like, what? This is a joke. What am I trying to hit it on the screws? Like, this is cool, but where's my real clubs? Which is like, it's so stupid because these clubs just a couple of weeks ago were the newest, hottest clubs. They're still really, really good, but what are we doing
Best
here? I
clubs
feel
in the
like,
world.
I feel like, I'm hitting a drive like 260, but when my Sim 2 comes, that would have been 310 or something. So like, what a waste of time out here at the range, just slap picking it around. This is stupid.
I've got new shafts coming on my irons on after the fitting. That was a huge change for me. I'm swinging a heavier feel now than I've ever swung because my fitter told me that I need to look in the mirror at one point. I think he said. He's like, I need a little bit more whip. He's given me something that feels a little whippy towards the bottom. He said, I'm not Bryson DeChambeau out here or whatever, a guy swinging however hard I need to be swinging. So yeah, I looked in the mirror and I said, you just fit me with the right whatever. And I'll just do that. Like I don't know better than you. So they're the shafts that have like the ribbing in them. They're not like that one clean shaft. They actually have a little bit of a ribbing to them. So they do flex a little bit more. I'm really interested in it because I was hitting them so much more consistently where I wanted, not left and right. I wonder if my swing just wasn't like the way I swing really like short on the backswing, and I come through and have a really long follow through. It's amazing the things that they tell you you're doing that you never once thought of. He told me my follow through was double the size of my backswing. And then like showed me like it on video, and he's like, it's crazy how much more you're going around your body on the follow through. You don't need to do that. He told me this abbreviated follow through where he said, in your brain, try and stop the club after you make contact. And I said, what does that even mean? He goes, just do it. And I did it. And I swear to God, I finished like Tiger Woods. Like I was finishing right here. And he's like, he was laughing in my face. Like, yeah, it's just how you hit a golf ball.
Frankie was on my left, and there was something occurring during your fitting lesson situation that it felt like when they put those fucking those devices on people that are like 72 that can hear words for the first time.
Yes.
And they're like, and it's this super emotional out of body experience. That was Frankie over on my left. After every shot, you were making the same sort of emotional noises that those people make. It was incredible.
Yeah, he gave me a couple tips that you've always had tips here and there. You read them in the fucking magazines. We have met a bunch of pros that give us tips. He gave me one that was just so damn simple. It's in the video, and I talked about this on the stream the other night, maybe on the last podcast. But it all had to do with the logo on my glove. And that's like when you talk to me about, like basically explain it to me like I'm 5. And the way he did it was like, have that logo, that TaylorMade logo, face the golf ball as long as it possibly can on your backswing. And it will keep that club head square to the target. You won't lift it up facing the ceiling and then come down and swoop it. You're going to come down on the ball. You're going to take a divot, and you're going to be a human being. You're going to be an athlete, and you're going to get the ball in the air. And he told me that, dude, I was flushing 3 woods off the deck, 250 carry, 275 rollout. He looked at me. He's like, we're done. Like, we're done today. That's it. That's the lesson. Just the logo facing the ball. I've gotten so many people messaging me about that tip. I must have said it somewhere, and they're like, what was that one swing thought? And I think that's going to help people more than anything, is that just think of that logo. Because it's very baseball of me to just go straight at it, right? With like that logo coming up, like facing the sky. It's like very just like go at the ball, as opposed to like this is so much more golf, right? Like having that logo down to the ground, attacking the ground. So I was like, dude, you just changed my life, man. He changed my life. I was like, do I do this with the driver? He goes, you fucking right, you do that with the driver. I was like, oh, holy shit. I was hitting fucking bombs. It was crazy. Crazy.
Dude, there's nothing
that
cooler
video's
than
coming out
playing good golf. It's just the coolest experience.
It just feels right.
It does. And I mean, I think those guys are so good about not giving golf detail, but just giving you like a simple, like layman man term tip, like to understand it, digest it, and then try to hit on it. And I think they all pieced together who they should match with. Like Frankie, they gave some tips. Riggs, I kind of get your piece because you picked up 10 to 15 yards of distance. So I get, even though you're hitting world-class clubs right now, to go to the range and be 10 to 15 yards shorter than you were last week when you hit different clubs. So like that makes, I was like, what does
Longer,
he even
not
mean?
shorter.
Like say again?
Longer, not shorter, but that's you said shorter.
I did? Oh, all right. Well, my mistake. Maybe I was thinking of me because I now have clubs or am getting clubs that I'm 10 yards shorter. I just can't wait. So I'm not putting anyways until I get my new putter to dial that in. I can't.
Well, you got to explain to people why you're getting clubs that are short, that are hitting it shorter. People got to know the answer to that.
Oh, well, because I was hitting it too far. Like all of a sudden, I was picking up that 7-iron. I was hitting it about 205. It was coming in on the track, man. Which is
why is that
way
too far?
Why is that too far? Because when we play a golf course and I then hit my 9-iron 170, I've got a huge gap where my pitching wedge comes in 150 to my 52-degree wedge that probably goes 130. So when I drive a ball out there, so everybody knows I've got a huge gap between 130 and 160 that I now can't hit at greens with a full swing. So I have to do these like knockdown pitching wedges to get something on there, which is super frustrating. So hopefully this will bring my 7-iron back to like when I was doing it with him, it was 185, 190, which is still long, but in the realm of kind of possibilities of hitting greens with a full 9-iron, full 8-iron, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just counterintuitive, right? So I feel like getting the full scope of everybody's situation, because you are a phenomenal iron player, and so I wasn't at your little fitting. We can watch on the video, but to me it does make sense because I thought like you would put the ball back in your stance and you would just trap, drive, draw the fuck out of it, and you would add, essentially you were de-lofting the clubs,
every club,
but you're hitting them very far and pretty accurately. But I guess what I took away from yours was like, no, if you fit them a little more properly and tweak a couple things, you'll actually still be able to hit your irons very far, which you do, but also you'll pick up, I think, probably some height on your irons so that they come in a little softer and you'll be even deadlier.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I appreciate you explaining it in the Harvard language that you did. But yeah, no, I think these clubs have a little bit more loft. So when I de-loft it, they basically create a club that mitigates how much I de-loft it. So it flies at a more normal ball flight, which, I'm psyched. I mean, getting fitted with brand new clubs, I think, does anybody think they're going to be substantially different and better this year because of these clubs? Do we think we're going to, how many strokes do you think you're going to go down?
Buddy, let me tell you this. Any golfer in the world, you get one new club, you think you're 5 strokes better overnight, instantly. So now you're talking, you go to the kingdom, you get a whole bag of new clubs that are so detailed and curated for your specific game. I mean, I think if I shoot outside of the 70s at any point in the next 12 months, in my brain currently, I will be stunned. Now that's obviously going to happen because I'm just not that good, but the current mindset, especially because, a couple weeks off with quarantine and with it being winter, like you start to get in your head, you watch these guys in Florida, they're 20 under, 25 under, or in Hawaii, they're a million under. You're like, oh, golf just looks easy. I have brand new equipment. Like this is going to be a joke this year. So my current confidence level is through the roof.
If we're going to add predictions, I think I get down to a 2.5 this year.
Wow.
Does anybody else want to project where 2.5. I think I'm going to get down to a 2.5.
I'm gonna get so consistent that people are gonna stop saying that I'm not the handicap that I truly am. Like I'm just gonna play better on camera. Like I'm gonna finally just learn how to be consistent. That's my biggest thing, and these clubs are gonna help me with that.
Okay. T?
I mean, I'd like to consistently be touching nines by the end of the year, and I think I'm definitely going to get there. Just with the swing tips I've been getting and the clubs, they really do help. I've said it before, but the last couple scramble matches I have had these P790s, and they're just, I don't know, I just hit them way better. I love the way they look when I'm about to swing. So I think I would like to be touching nines. I would like to put 100 in the rearview mirror for good. I would really love for that to happen. Obviously, I'm going to blow up here, a time or two, and I'm going to get frustrated and whatever.
Sure.
It happens. But I'd love to be just nines for the majority of the year once I really start to get rolling. I start playing some consistent golf.
Yeah,
Riggs, what do you got?
I think Trent should and will get to a point where 100 isn't even a topic of discussion.
I agree.
So my goal this year is last year at the end of the year, I posted my gym stats from the app, and my average score was an 82, which I make a lot of fun of. And we play whatever the courses that we play, the slopes and the ratings that came out to, I think it finished the year at like a 4.6 handicap. My high for the year was like a 98. My low was like a 73, but my average score was an 82. I would like my average score this year to be under 80. So that would be, essentially a 2+ stroke improvement over the course of an entire year, which, I think there's a little bit of almost like a law of diminishing returns where, Trent's game, for example, like Trent hasn't broken 100 yet, but like Trent could easily improve by 15 strokes and nobody would be that surprised. Whereas when you're down in like the 4 or 5 range, it's like, I feel like it's you put in the same amount of work, or you could really, in theory, make the same amount of improvements, but you might only get half a shot or a shot better or something on your handicap index. So I do realize that I think shaving 2.5 or 2+, I guess 2.1 plus, average strokes per round would be a massive improvement. But I do think I consider myself pound for pound maybe the worst golfer in the world. Like I don't know that anybody's played more golf than I have and been worse. Like I don't know if that's possible. So I do take it as and I consider myself athletic. So I do think that I should just be averaging under 80.
You're digging yourself a hole here.
That's what I think. I should be averaging under 80. So my goal this year is to come in, if my average score for the year on the Gin app is 79.9, that's a victory, and I did it.
That would be amazing. I actually think that's way better. I love the idea. It also just means you're consistently going out there and playing good golf. Like where I go and where I've definitely been and where I am is like, I'll go low, shoot 71, and then I'll see a 92 out there. And you're like, God, that is just killer. So why that just like rears its ugly head. And so if you can average under 80, I mean, you're in the top 1% of golfers in the world. I mean, you got to be somewhere up there. That's incredible.
I would really like to do it. I can't. It would be cool. It's going to be
monumental.
Difficult. I think it's going to be difficult. That's
right.
I like that you consider yourself an athlete because I do too. I like at the end of the day, like if I'm sitting in a dark, like right before I'm about to fall asleep and everything's gone away, Twitter's not there, Instagram's not there, the comments aren't there, nothing's there. If I'm laying there and I pose the question myself, do you consider yourself an athlete? My response is, I'm an athlete. You know what I mean?
Yes.
100%. If it all falls away, I still think that I'm decently athletic.
I think there's definitely something under there. And we all played organized sports. All of us did at one point in our lives where we were competent at a sport. And I still think under all the years, under all the layers, under all the junk, all the booze, all the everything, I still think there's an athlete under there. And I believe that to be true, and no one can convince me otherwise.
100%.
Couldn't agree more. And, I'll look at, like if there's some little twerp, like 24-year-old that steps up next to me on the range and is like striping the golf ball, I'll look at that person. I'll be like, well, if this fucking dweeb can hit the ball that well, like, then I can figure it out. There's just no, and maybe he grew up as a country club or as a 5-year-old getting lessons. That's fine. But like, now I have the opportunity to catch up. And if that fucking dork can do it, I can just do it. Like, I'm an athlete, so I can just do it. So I think about it from both those angles.
I will say, I think that's how bad injuries happen. The mindset that we have, and Frankie most prominently because he's now in a roller hockey league where you
I have
think,
2 torn labrums.
well, that too, but like as true as it may be that you were an athlete once upon a time and you still think you are that, it certainly diminishes to a degree. But thinking you are still some semblance of that prior athlete is when you do something crazy and hurt yourself.
Well, what's funny is this is we're just describing 51 strokes. This is Caleb Presley. He's an athlete, college quarterback. He says, I can just do this. 51 strokes away from being a pro. And I'm an athlete. I can just go on the range just like that 10-year-old kid that belongs to the country club. And I can just become a pro with the amount of practice and I'll just do it. Like that's just what we're saying. Like it's actually quite funny if you think about it, but like we all kind of have that in us where it's like, there's nothing stopping me from doing that. There's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I haven't let go of the senior tour yet. I think that's in the realm of possibilities. I'm not going to say no to that. But yeah, I think that.
But you know that's impossible, right? That was just a funny joke. Okay.
A little blind confidence, like it's golf though. It gives you that when you're like, Twitter's away, as Trent says, and you're falling asleep. You're like, you know what? If everything else just goes to shit, I still have a chance to make the senior tour, just like these little things that like, and that's what drives you about golf, where all other sports are gone. Like baseball's gone, like any other sport that you did as a kid is just gone. Golf, people of your age or older are still playing, which I think excites you from like a competition standpoint. And yeah, I mean, I think maybe I'm a little bit further down the path and just a complete psycho than everybody else, but no, I still feel that to some degree.
Well, let's be clear. You're not going to make the senior tour.
Oh, no, I know that. But like,
but you don't think it's zero. You don't think it's zero.
No, I think it's like 0.01%.
I actually do. I do relate to that now that I think about it. As preposterous as that is, I think I was still thinking that the NFL was possible until I was 28.
A coach might call me. Like, there's a chance.
Like, why not? Like, I'm 28. There's NFL football players who are 28. Obviously, I was way past any sort of prime, but yeah, no, I hold on to those little dreams as well.
So yeah, I'm in this room right now doing this recording, and they have all these little answer the internet cards from KSU radio, and I'm just like reading through them. They're just sitting on this desk. They're very funny, and I just I wanted to ask a golf one, but this one just made me laugh. Would you rather eat all your food through a straw or have food tossed into your mouth for the rest of your life? And that just got me thinking, like, holy fuck, yeah, it'd be such a struggle to suck food through a straw, but imagine every time you're starving, someone has to slowly toss food into your mouth. You have to catch it. It's like that idea of like when you're at Benihana and they're flicking fucking food at you, how hard that is to get just one piece of chicken in your mouth.
From the outset, it seems like you're like a king where the people feed you your food.
I think it's more like, I think it's more of a toss. Like it's a game. Like open up. Let's see if you can catch this piece of popcorn. But that's like the only thing you can eat.
See, if it's a toss, I'm going through a straw for the rest of my life. I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's not even that difficult. I don't have to deal with this person. Like I got a tosser. Like every time I want to eat, I get somebody to come over and toss me food. Or how's that work? They live with me. I'm out on that.
Right.
And then I'll just have a straw.
I would end up fucking hating my tosser. I
thought you were saying I'm going to end up fucking my tosser.
No, I would end up hating that person because at first, like, this is a novelty thing, and then a couple months in, start guy throwing you pieces of chicken. I would end up killing my tosser, and then I'd starve to death.
Fucking throw it right here, bro. At my nose. Started at my nose. I'm starving,
dude. You couldn't eat certain food like a cheeseburger. Somebody threw a cheeseburger at you, like the bun would hit you in the eye, the fucking cheese would hit you in the nose. Like it'd be a.
You also can't eat a cheeseburger through a straw, though.
No, it's over.
Great. You can.
Right. So that's why I'm saying you're
Cheeseburgers.
basically eating from a straw anyways with the fucking toss
Right,
thing. So
right,
I'm like, might as well
right.
just do the straw.
And then the other one was, would you rather, which I wanted to do towards the golf, is would you rather have the ability to see through cards when gambling or get $150 million? So basically, it would be like, could you like create your own schemes by like seeing through cards that would make you over 150 million? For me, that wouldn't be the case. I'd just take the money. But for golf, like, would you rather have the ability to shoot under par every single time you golf or get like $10 million cash today? Like what would bring more excitement or maybe even more value to you if you could shoot under par at will every single round? We'd have to come up with like a number though, right? Because like under par could be fucking 10 under, and then you're winning golf tournaments for tens of millions of dollars. So like, I think it's more like recreationally under par. Like you can go out with your buddies and shoot a 69, maybe make a golf tournament here and there, but I don't know that you're like a pro, or someone just hands you cash, 10 million.
Yeah, well, I would want to know, like, because for the U.S. Open now I can just compete and get a top 10. So would I be able to
Yeah.
shoot under par?
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to get into the U.S. Open.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, potentially.
So does the question work if
does
does the question work like you have the ability to shoot under par? Like I don't know how to like pose that. If we were to make our own question card,
Yeah.
what's the fairest way?
So if it's just
Like-
with like being an amateur and with your buddy shooting under par, but you have no ability to ever make a tour or make any money like from playing golf, then I would take the 10 million bucks.
You're essentially a +1 handicap.
Yeah,
Right.
I would just take the 10
Right.
million.
Do you understand how much fun golf would be though? I think at some level
Man.
of being a +1.
I would take the 10 million just because at least right now, and it gets different when you're down. Like it was like what Rick was saying, where it's like those 2.5 strokes, like that's so much different than me improving 10 to 15 strokes. But I like the process and the feeling of like I'm getting better now, and that's like very exciting to me. I wouldn't want to just make the jump right now to be a +1 handicap, because that takes all of that fun where I like get to improve all the way down to that point where I could just rather have $10 million. But I could see how someone like in Riggs's position where just getting over that hump would be such an amazing feeling.
It would be.
Right. Yeah, it's like, because like getting money is about making your life better and your experiences better, right? So like you get a nicer house, you get a nicer car, you buy stuff, but like if your passion and love is golf and you are just so sick at it, you may get more enjoyment and experiences out of being a sick golfer. And like imagine you guys went to Cyprus and you guys like met this fucking
Right.
sicko, the guy there, and you guys shot 68 and 67 and you fucking torched that place and you're like, holy fuck, what a day. Like we just
It's
you go to
true, like-
Augusta, you finally get to go to Augusta, you shoot a 68 and you fucking birdie 12. You're like, this is fucking awesome.
Right, Riggs, like remember the first time, this was years ago now, when you and I played TBC Sawgrass and you played terrible. I think you would admit to that as well. And it's like when we were talking about the round afterwards, you were like, it's like I wasn't even there. It's like when we played, and I was obviously really bad back then, but you were still pretty good, but you played so terribly that when we were done, you're like, it feels like I didn't even make the trip down here. And
yeah, it felt like I never played any of the holes, right? Like just slapping it into the trees and then trying to hit it out and then and making double on every hole. Like that's not, I didn't play the golf course. I was just, there was grass and sand and I was upon it, but it wasn't, I didn't play the actual golf course. So I do think the theory of like, you could show up to any golf course in a bucket list course. Maybe you should show up on the first tee at Pebble and you and your brain are like, yeah, I should be able to shoot 70, 71, 69, like that. And if I play poorly, I guess 74, like that would be really fucking cool.
Dude, oddly enough,
such a different perspective.
Yeah,
you may like open up experiences or like opportunities for yourself by being that good of a golfer, just like playing with people. Like if we had the connections we have now by just knowing people in the golf world and we were fucking shooting 68s and 69s, showing up to places, you meet people and impress people on a level so much that like they just want you in their corner, and who knows what that turns into. You know what I mean? Like it may be just as beneficial to be a +1 handicap when you have a network of people that love to golf.
Then again, $10
So-
million is 10 million. It's that.
Yeah. So
I know,
what would you
it's
guys
like-
take? I'm
I-
taking the 10 million bucks and striving to be a better golfer because yeah, that's an easy one for me. 10 million in the bank, that cures a lot of, what goes on in my mental space when I'm, when Twitter's gone and I'm just laying in my bed there. So I'm taking the 10 million and I'll still fight to play golf every day.
See, you're actually a decent, like, you can go out there and not embarrass yourself. I think for someone that's like wants to be a lot better at golf, it's a more difficult question because you can just have 10 million and be the golfer you are now and still enjoy life.
No, but like my golf game can still go luckily, like people on the internet think I'm halfway decent because somehow when a camera gets around, I just play better for whatever reason and haven't just hit the ball off the map, which happens to me sometimes. But I can still you go up and say you're a 4, there is already expectations on you to play good golf when you say that and when you don't know people. And then when you go out and fire a 91, it's like, oh, well, he's not, he kind of stinks. And so there's always that expectation of when you change your handicap or when you state what you are, how people feel about you pre-round. There's a lot of clubs around the country or where golf courses that you play that honestly the most important ball that you hit is just the tee shot on one because people are looking at you from the pro shop or my buddy's a member of Concord Country Club up in Massachusetts and might have one of the best starting holes for a local country club in all of golf. Pro shop rolls right onto the first green. There's the bar area, lunch area that looks out over the first green, and it's a par 5 with the most largest fairway you've ever seen. And that is the only shot that matters. I feel that whole day.
I just like to eliminate the possibility of me playing where it looks like I stink. That's it.
Yes.
Right. Cause that's still so much in my golf vocabulary. That could come out of my body at any moment. And there's a certain level, a threshold that you get to where even when they play poorly, certain guys shoot 75, 76 that are amateur golfers and they're rattled and that's a shit round for them. But anyone else watching is no, that guy's still good, really good. He just didn't have it today. Whereas us on our level, our bad is still people question if you have all control of all 4 of your limbs and if you're in any way an athletic coordinated human being. And getting rid of that is the goal. Just get rid of that. My best doesn't need to be under par. My best could still be the same as it is now. I just want my really bad to be convincing enough that I'm actually a decent player. That's what I would like it to be. And
yeah, that's perfect.
Honestly. It just
I
is
know.
not
I
there.
100% agree. Just get rid of anything over 88 when you can't even find a par. You just pull it left. Then you push one way right and you just have no idea. And actually I might to, this is kind of a ricochet shot, but to Jordan Spieth, when you step over a ball and have no idea where it's going, that sucks. It's really hard to be all right, I'm out here for 4.5 hours. I'm going to continually stand over this thing. And I genuinely have no idea where it's going to go. And I'm going to try. Yeah, I know I'm hitting it right. So I'm going to try to aim a little left. But the last time I did that, I topped one and pulled one way left. So I'm really, if I could, I agree. That would be where the money would be worth it. If I could just, I played bad today, but I shot an 81, and I just kind of didn't have it, but I was still totally within the game of golf.
Being within the confines of good, decent golf and never being out of that would be really awesome. And it's just not there. And that, I remember even at the fitting, my guy Trotty asked all right, where are we aiming here? And I was just I don't know. And he's well, what's the target? I was the grass. I'm just if we could just hit that grass out there, that's fine. That's sort of in play. It's well, we got to rethink our whole theory. There's no plan. And just always being hyper focused and know that there's a certain spread that your ball is just going to end up in, and that spread, that scatter plot is always fine would be great. And that's just currently not the case. Now, we talk a lot about TaylorMade. They're clearly helping. Getting fitted helps. Getting the right equipment helps. TaylorMade's announcing they've got the new Sim family of products. You've probably seen You've probably seen some of the guys on tour rocking them. The Sim 2's got the little blue on it. It is a weapon. I think we called it a cheat club several times in the show. You're not actually cheating, but it feels like you're cheating because the technology is so damn good. You're going to hear a lot more about TaylorMade from us. We've talked about it a lot on pretty much every show since we announced our partnership with them. Their Sim2 Fairway and rescues. They're designed to help you take it low. TaylorMade brought back its iconic V-steel design. So all of you who are out there like, oh, I can't hit my 3-wood, I can't get it off the ground. You should be very excited because this technology is pretty much going to do it for you. It does. I saw Frankie roasting his 5-wood, a 3-wood off the turf. Go check out their new stuff, their Tour Response golf balls as well, for people who've always wondered what those high-priced tour balls are, but you're afraid to pull the trigger. These are for you. You can get them branded with the Barstool logo on the Barstool store. So a big thanks to TaylorMade. This whole crew over there, all the men and women at TaylorMade, one thing that really impressed me was that they just get genuine excitement out of watching other people improve their games, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, for us, the greatest high in the world is like making people laugh or entertaining people and knowing that like the work that you put in has actually made someone's day a little better, or they've taken things a little less seriously, or they turned on one of our videos, they listened to a segment from our show and they just laughed out loud and it made their day better. And the version of that for the entire TaylorMade family, and they've said this to us on multiple occasions, is just like, when we're able to do something that makes someone better at the game of golf, they enjoy the game that much more. And that is the most rewarding thing in the world. And that is what they work at all day, all night. Their engineers, their sound engineers, their marketing team, everybody. That's their biggest satisfaction, is when they see someone all of a sudden that was duck hooking the ball off the tee that gets this Sim 2 that's perfect for their swing. All of a sudden they're hitting this beautiful high cut that's going right down the middle with really good TrackMan numbers. That person's going to enjoy the hell out of the game of golf a lot more than they were before. And TaylorMade is just phenomenal at that. So huge thanks to TaylorMade. We are going to have, like I said, our fitting from the kingdom will come out this week. We have the Pat Perez 4-man scramble coming out Tuesday of next week. And then following February 2nd, all the way through like the summer, we're going to be releasing TaylorMade videos that we have shot already that we're going to be working on, getting out, promoting. So pay attention to all of that. Okay. Headlines. We got a few headlines to get to. Probably the one that caused the most discussion in the world of golf was a Friday afternoon news dump by Ralph Lauren, Polo, who announced that in the wake of JT using the hard F-bomb homophobic slur at Kapalua, that they are discontinuing their partnership. JT has been with Polo, synonymous with Polo Golf Brand, since 2013. I believe his current deal was through this entire year. And you have to imagine there was going to be a re-up because obviously, again, JT, number 3 ranked player in the world, extremely well-liked, his personality. I mean, he was tapped to be the on-course reporter for a few different matches, but with, he had he's chirping Charles Barkley, and he's very funny and he's very charismatic and he's very candid. He's a star, probably a top 3 or 4 star in the world of golf. And so this announcement came. The first thing I'm going to say is that anyone who is like it's very apparent that anytime you defend or you work to defend or you criticize Polo in this situation, the first connotation of that is going to be that you're shrugging off what JT said, or that you're somehow endorsing what he said, which clearly what he said and dropping the word that he dropped is terrible. It's very hurtful. There's a whole community who that has to just sting very, very deeply. And to know that that's out there, that's in someone's lexicon, that, that people are dropping that word in general, especially somebody like JT on a hot mic. It's horrible. It's terrible. He came out and apologized immediately. I thought he was very, very sincere. We broke a lot of that down. Frankie talked about his experiences. We all sort of talked about it. I thought we did about the best job that 4 buffoons like us could possibly do discussing it. So obviously he needs to feel some sort of reprimand, punishment for that. It's unacceptable. It's not just like a negative thing. It's not just like, ooh, tough, you can't say that, right? Like there's most bad words in the English language get the like, ooh, that was harsh, you can't say that. This is genuinely an unacceptable word. Like what he said is an unacceptable word. You cannot say it. And he said it. So that's terrible. He should feel a lot of shame for that, and clearly did, and apologized for it immediately. And he I thought came off as very sincere when he did it. The shocking part to me with the announcement that Polo dropped him, it was 5-6 days later. In the world that we live in, it was, for all intents and purposes, it was over. Like the JT, we were at Sony. We were on to, nearly halfway through the next tournament. There's a Tiger Woods documentary coming out. We're going to be on to the California swing and the West Coast swing. And it was just 5 days later. To me, if you're going to do it and you do it right in the heat of the moment within a day or two, I would have thought that would have made a lot more sense. For them to wait until Friday afternoon news dump and then bring up the whole thing again, I thought was a little bit bizarre. The second part of it was, I thought that their statement, when they put in the provision, as we make this decision, our hope is that Mr. Thomas does the hard and necessary work in order to partner with us again, truly examining this incident, learning, growing, and ultimately using his platform to promote inclusion. That was maybe the most bizarre line I've ever seen in a statement of, like, if you're going to drop somebody, you're essentially saying, like, we don't believe that they're really redeemable from this point that's going to allow us to work with them, so we're going to part ways. Or you do what companies do, which is you stick by somebody and say, as this person sort of learns and reinvents, their perception of what they should be able to say or allowed to say or what's appropriate to say, we'd like to support them and help people understand and have this awareness that certain words can have a horrible impact on people, and they're going to stick with them. Instead, they did really neither of the two, and put in this provision of, like, hopefully Mr. Thomas can work with us in the future. So those couple of things to me made the entire move seem extremely bizarre and just a little like it wasn't handled in any direction like I thought would be the ideal way to handle. I thought it was an opportunity for them to essentially stick by JT, raise awareness, and ultimately, prove a point over an extended period of time that there's certain unacceptable behavior, and that it'd be better for all of us to learn from that and move past it. Or they could have cut right away, but to do it 5 days later and a Friday afternoon news dump, the whole thing felt like a very shocking move by Polo. And me personally, I was very, very surprised when I heard the news.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it either. I mean, like, yes, he obviously should never have said what he said. But I found it very interesting that he dropped him a few days later. He's such like a Polo guy. I mean, I guess the one thing, yes, you should never say that. On the second note, I would love to see brands stick more by their guys than they usually do. Like, usually people get dropped. I would love to see them be more of a team. They always talk about partnerships. We're going into this working with this individual because of, these extenuating circumstances, and we want to continue to work with them. But then when push comes to shove and something like this happens, like, work with him on the next steps. If you really think that he's going to be a brand partner for you guys, everybody makes mistakes. I think the world knows that. I would love to see brands stick by more of their kind of brand advocates than they usually do.
Yeah, it's more of just like you don't want to see, like, I don't know. We talked about it last week, but it's a horrible word to say, and people in the moment just say things that they don't mean, and you just can't make life decisions and career decisions. Someone that's built their brand up, built Polo up so high, and has stuck by them through everything. I mean, like, it just comes off very everyone says cancel culture and all this stuff, and this isn't cancel culture. It's just like there's an outcry to just like ruin people whenever something happens. Justin Thomas said something to himself that is unbelievably hurtful, but like, he can grow from that. He can apologize for it, and he can just like move on and like become a better person from it. Why like, you just want him on the street, or like, what's like the result of this? Like, I don't understand where like the end game is when someone makes a mistake and you want to just bury them.
Like Dave says all the time, you get the extremes on every side that ruin everything, and they're just the absolute worst. And so, no, it shouldn't go that far. It does raise an interesting, like, where do you decide to draw the line? Why all of a sudden is this something that you must cut ties with but what other things have happened either in your relationship with Justin Thomas or in a company's relationship or whatever that you haven't decided to cut ties with X, Y, or Z person or entity or whatever, and why didn't you? So it starts to raise all of those questions, which again makes the decision that much more interesting and surprising. Like to me, Justin Thomas is on TV for hundreds of hours. He's played in hundreds and hundreds of events. He's hit thousands and thousands of golf shots. He's been on hot mic many times. All the time he's playing live golf, and he has one incident and you cut ties with him. So that to me again is why it was so surprising. Now again, you run the risk of like diminishing what he said, or it comes off as you're brushing off what he said, which I understand. Like I understand that it could come off that way. To me, it gets very frustrating when those are the extremes from one side are being like, oh, you're supporting homophobic slurs. It's like, no, we're not. We actually are very clear that those are awful. And it's one of the few words I would say in the English language that is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable to use. And then you get the other side that's like, fuck this company. I'm burning all my clothes. It's like, well, that's a little crazy. Like you probably spent a lot of money on those clothes and in theory, they're pretty nice. So that would just be a poor decision. So you do get the extremes on every side that tend to ruin it. And they tend to be very loud and they tend to dominate a lot of the conversation when in reality, 95% of people live somewhere in the middle and can see a little bit of each side's point on the whole thing. And it was just, again, to me, overall, I was very surprised. I don't think people should be tweeting at Ralph Lauren like, fuck you, I'm going to burn all your clothes. I also don't think people should be responding to folks that found the move to be surprising with like, you're clearly supporting the attack of a certain community. Like, nope, that's not the case. So again, it's everybody in the middle. I think that's generally where we live. I found it to be a very surprising move. I wrote a blog where essentially my conclusion was that I think JT will be better off. Largely, I don't think he looked that great in the polo gear. I never did. I think that he'll look a lot cooler in a different apparel companies. And the reasons that I thought the move was really bizarre are the same reasons I think that apparel companies are lining up to sign one of the biggest stars in the world of golf, who for 8 years now out here or since he began at Polo in 2013, has built up a reputation again of being an extremely well-liked, personable, talented, hardworking young man who's going to win many golf tournaments. And so I think companies are going to want to partner with somebody like that. And I think they're going to be lining up. So I don't think he's necessarily going to lose much money overall. I think he's going to probably end up with a better apparel sponsor because I wasn't a giant fan of him in Polo in general. And I think he's going to learn from this and be extremely careful with what he says. So ultimately, for all those reasons, I think JT is going to be better off. It just came off as a very surprising move by Ralph Lauren to me.
Yeah, JT's going to be fine. And so is Ralph Lauren. Like, that's a business decision. They looked at the situation. It's not cancel culture, I would say, definitely. It's just that they looked at the situation. They don't approve of what he said. Nobody should. It's an unacceptable word. And they decided to cut ties. Like, we talked about last week again, but like the people on the one side being like, I don't think JT should be ever be able or allowed to make any more money playing golf because of this. And then the other side is like, it's just a word. Everybody just relax. And Ralph Lauren looked at the whole thing and they just decided they didn't want to be in business with this guy anymore. They cut ties. He's going to sign another apparel deal next month or next week or whenever. And everybody's just going to go their separate ways. Nobody's getting canceled. Ralph Lauren made a decision. JT has made a decision, and everybody just kind of moves forward. Like, I don't know. That's sort of my take on the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot swirling, right? There's a lot of people are pointing out that Ralph Lauren is extremely popular in the LGBTQ community, and that they have a lot of employees. So therefore, they're significantly more sensitive to this particular issue. That makes a lot of sense. There's other people saying like, hey, Polo Golf actually has been losing money, and so they're looking for reasons to cut costs. Like, well, if that were the case, then this would be a very shitty move for them to essentially put the failings of their business on Justin Thomas in this incident and paint it like. But again, those are all just fucking rumors. I don't know. I haven't done the research. I don't know all the financials behind Polo. Just to me, as a big fan of golf, understanding JT's place in the game, understanding that he was a big polo guy and has been for 8 years and was probably going to be forever, it came off as a surprising move. And I think we've talked about it plenty. Okay. The Tiger Woods documentary. So part 2 was last night. It was only a 2-parter, which to me is one of the big shortcomings of the entire thing. I originally was, and I believe it was Dylan, it was Danny Rapport who got first looks at the documentary. A lot of the immediate reaction was like, this is a hit piece. It's painted like a tragedy. Steinberg came out and did what the Tiger camp does a lot, which was like just totally paint the thing with a salacious brush and say, like nobody should watch it. You guys on the last show and a lot of other people reached out and were like, no, it was actually pretty good. Overall, it's pretty good. So I said, fuck it. So I watched it. I think overall it was fine. I think overall the whole thing was fine. I obviously have a few issues with it. I think the number one thing is that it caters to, I think, the more average sports fan, maybe like the golf fan, window shopper who just kind of browses here and there, and that's understandable. However, when you're a gigantic Tiger nut and you've followed every detail of his fucking life for basically your whole life, a lot of it came off as pretty redundant, and a lot of it was frustratingly off. And what I mean by that is some of the coolest parts, I thought, they didn't really make a ton of sense. And in the episode 1, Steve Williams gives this Phil Mickelson story where they're at the Masters in the final round. Tiger's trying to win the Tiger Slam, 13th hole. Phil hits a good driver out there. Tiger decides to pull 3-wood, roasts it by him. Phil says to him, like, holy cow, like, do you always hit your 3-wood that far? And Tiger looks at him and says, like, I usually hit it farther, actually. And this story is painted as like it made Phil unravel. And then they start showing highlights from like the 10th hole and holes that had already happened. And it's like, no, that actually, like, if you have any golf sense whatsoever, Augusta like the back of your hand, and that just doesn't, the chronological telling of that story didn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. So that type of stuff drove me crazy. They did that on multiple occasions, where it was just like, if you're going to tell and try to tell this amazing of a story, like, you have to get that shit right. Otherwise it's not going to come off as credible as you're trying to paint it. Which my main point is that I thought if they were going to try to tell the full story of Tiger Woods' life, they needed to do it more justice than 2.5 or 3 hours total. And if you look at one of the better examples that I think people rave about is like the MJ documentary. And, Last Dance was like 10 episodes, and they were able to go through in detail, like a lot of the moments, a lot of the shots, to the point where, like, when they would show the clip of, hey, there's 6 seconds left and the Bulls are going to run this play, and then they would get everybody's perspective on it, from fucking Scottie Pippen to MJ to like Isaiah Thomas, and like all these different guys that were involved in the thing. Whereas in this, you had fucking a couple of Tiger's girlfriends and mistresses were like the perspective that we were getting from the whole thing. So on that level, I thought if you're going to try to tell the entire story of Tiger Woods' life in 2.5 or 3 hours, and 30 or 45 minutes of that is about his personal life, well, that's not accurately reflective, right? Like, go through, and what they did again with the MJ doc is like, dude, they would give like 6 seconds left in a second round NBA playoff game 5. They would give like 10 minutes to, where they would talk and dissect all of it, because that's what Michael Jordan's fucking known for. He's not known for like gambling. Yeah, they did a little bit on that, but like, he's known for winning fucking basketball games and winning championships. And that's what Tiger Woods is like known for. And a lot of it, they cruise through, like him winning the Tour Championship in 2018. They didn't even talk about that. They showed that as like a montage of part of his comeback. And I was like, no, actually, people broke down the fucking gates at Eastlake, which is where Bobby Jones used to play, and swarmed Tiger all the way up 18, to the point where Rory McIlroy had to like sprint into the clubhouse so he didn't get swarmed by the crowd. And that propelled him to like, holy shit, his first win in 5 years. Like, he was quivering because he was in tears on the 18th green. Like, they didn't even talk about it. That was just part of a montage of a comeback. And then all of a sudden they just appear at Augusta, and you're like, well, no. So I thought the biggest shortcoming of it to me was that they tried to paint it like they were telling the full deep story of Tiger Woods' life, when in reality, you need a lot more than 2.5 or 3 hours to do that properly. And the other thing was what did I have to watch? 10 straight minutes of Tiger's DUI footage from that? Like, what they was just going on forever. It was like the guy didn't get arrested for going to the Woods Jupiter and drinking 15 vodkas. Like, he had 5 prescribed drugs in his system because he's recovering from his 5th back surgery, and like was a victim of this awful drug addiction that ultimately is not something we should be like pointing and like laughing at him on TV for 10 minutes trying to walk around the detention center. It was like, and so I thought that like that type of stuff painted it so much more negative than it needed to be painted. I get that you have to address the negative stuff, but I thought, again, for like a 2.5, 3 hours, however long the whole thing was, there was so much harped on that aspect of it, when in reality, that is like not the story of Tiger Woods.
One of the real shames of his entire scandal is that you're never going to get a Tiger-like Michael Jordan documentary, because what really made The Last Dance extremely special was Michael's involvement. Was him being like, yeah, I'll sit down and I'll do interviews and I'll talk about all this stuff because I was awesome and I was the best and people loved me. Tiger will never do that because they're never not going to cover the scandal part of his life, and he will never sit down and do an interview about that, ever. He just won't do it. He refuses to do that, and I understand why. But like, that's really, because 2 episodes is not enough to cover Tiger Woods. Obviously, you want that to be longer. The book that it's based on is like 1,000,000 pages long. We've all obviously read it, but I think that's the major difference between the Tiger doc and the Michael Jordan doc, is his involvement then, because if you get Michael Jordan's involvement, then you get all these other people who are like, oh, Michael's doing it, I'll jump in and I'll give my 2 cents. If Tiger never signs off on a documentary like this, which he never will, nobody else, at least of like real validity, is going to want to be interviewed for it. So like that's one of the real shames of the scandal. Obviously, he got himself involved in all those things, but like, you're never going to get this huge, widespread documentary about Tiger because he's never going to be involved, ever.
Yeah, I would say one of the big flaws of this Tiger Woods biography is that you don't have the perspective of Tiger Woods.
But some people would say the opposite. Like some people said with the Michael Jordan documentary, once you get the main person involved, once you get that involved, then they have to sign off on everything that goes on. So like, if there was something that Michael Jordan really didn't want in that documentary, they were going to scrap it because they knew to have his involvement, you have to throw that out. So it's like, it's a bit of a mix, but you're never going to get like a really cool, deep, dynamic dive into Tiger without Tiger. And I just don't see that ever happening.
Right. No, I agree. And I guess a very good point you made is just that like Tiger would bring along with him the people necessary to beef up sort of the credibility of everything that
Right.
they just lacked. And like I said, like they didn't have, like they weren't cutting from fucking competitor to competitor to competitor to competitor and breaking down like what it actually felt like to be getting dominated by Tiger. They were just having other people tell you what it must have felt like to be get right. And that's always that extra degree of separation. I thought, again, just was like,
that degree of separation means everything in a documentary, everything.
Right.
And you just lose a big part of credibility when you don't have that.
Stevie Williams was probably the coolest thing that they had, him going through. But like, again, if you're a Tiger nut, like I've seen a lot of that stuff. Stevie Williams has been on the USGA's documentary of the 2008 US Open, and he's dropped a lot of those quotes, like a lot of the stuff that Hank Haney has said before. And when you've read his book, like that stuff's already in there. So like, again, if you're a pretty big student of Tiger Woods' life, you already knew a lot of that stuff. So again, that's why I would say overall it's fine. I could see the average fan who just knows Tiger from the red shirt and tunes into a handful of tournaments a year, that they would be like, wow, a lot of this information about his father and about his upbringing and about sort of how the parallels between his downfall and what that meant with his father's personality, all that stuff's interesting. But like, if you already knew that stuff, then you're just watching stuff that you've already read. So a little bit of it, again, was sort of like, okay, get to shit that I haven't seen before. Some of the footage of him and his dad on the golf course was awesome that I hadn't seen, like I'd never seen before. I thought the footage of like him with the high school girlfriend at their parents' home and being like this happy, dorky kid, that's like, that was interesting, but also, you know, they were painting it so much as a comparison and a contrast to like the rest of his life, but you don't know that for sure. You don't have footage. Like when him and his dad are at home hitting balls, they might be giggling and laughing up a fucking storm all day too. Like you don't know. And from the footage on the course, they are like Earl's busting his balls about like, you know, hitting his club in his backswing when he's trying to make a putt, and Tiger's like laughing about it and also giving him a hard time. So like he might have been just as happy in those moments as he was at what's her name's house dressing up for prom. Like you don't know that, but they paint it like you do. So again, I thought a lot of those things were like cool additions, but there's a lot of assumptions being made because you're not getting not just Tiger's perspective, but an entire inner circle of one of the biggest fucking media sensations in the history of celebrity. You're just pretty much a gaping hole of his entire circle that's not putting their perspective in. So was it worth the time? I didn't think it was as big of a hit piece as people said. Armin Katayan, we've had him on the show. He was one of the executive producers. Like he's great overall. He had a laugh out loud funny line, I thought, when they panned to him at one point. And, you know, it almost was like Bill Simmons-esque where he dropped fuck, where he was talking about like, oh, all the younger generation said that they wanted to get Tiger Woods in his prime on a major championship. They wanted to be in that arena. And then they cut to Armin and he was like, the fuck you do or something. And I was like, this guy is, you know, like he's a biographer. He's not. And so that I was like, yeah, Armin, he probably fucking recorded that take 37 times to make it sound real strong. Like it came from the gut. So, you know, I like him. I didn't think it was a hit piece necessarily, but I do think that it harped too much on the stuff that Tiger Woods isn't actually known for. And instead, you know, this sort of grasping that they had to do to paint a fuller picture because they just didn't have the perspective of Tiger Woods and his entire inner circle.
Yeah, and they had the story that was written out in the book, and basically the outline of what they wanted to tell. They had an agenda on what kind of side of Tiger Woods that they wanted to tell, and it's geared more towards like the average person, like you're saying, watching HBO at night, just wanting to see like a drama story as opposed to like a sports story and a sports like hero story, which he is to us. And I thought they utilized like the footage that they had in a very manipulative way. Like they showed like him and Earl on the golf course, and then they would say something about how Earl was so like demanding, and then use footage that they had and like put like a sad sound to like a still shot on Tiger standing there, as if like the only thing Tiger's thinking of in that moment is like I hate my life, like my dad's so mean. Like they made you feel that way. And honestly, like a lot of people that just watch TV shows, not to be like a TV snob or like a fucking the way they make movies, but like they can drastically change like what you think about a specific shot. If you put that shot of Tiger Woods standing there waiting for Earl to hit a tee shot and he's just staring at the ground, and you just put like clown happy music, like he's having the best day ever. But they put like doom, like, and they're saying words like Earl was a fucking hard father, like holy shit, like yeah, Tiger's staring at the ground looking into space, like he looks like the most sad person of all time. So I think the way they do that is honestly like embarrassing, the fact that they can do that without Tiger. Like Tiger should have to be able to sign off on that. I don't know how all that works. Like it's crazy to me that you can put on blast. Like that's just like defamation of like character and stuff. I just don't know how that's possible. How you can just like spin a story to the story you want to tell about a human being's life and have like homegrown footage, like home videos of this fucking guy, and you tell the story that you want to tell about Tiger Woods. It blows my mind. Like I'm glad like people are allowed to make documentaries about shit, because not everyone would ever sign off on it, and we would have a lot less documentaries. But still, like that's kind of crazy to me that they can just tell their own story with music and quotes. It's just like so out of context. That is so out of context. To find that one shot, just do you know what I'm talking about? Where like they're like Tiger's
dude, where
like
they hit 14. They hit you with like Making of a Murderer music.
Yes. And like he's staring like just blankly at the ground, and they're like all the quotes that are going on while you're looking at this Tiger Woods is like, oh my God, the police need to like knock down on Earl's door and grab this child out of that room. But in reality, like Tiger probably just like drained a 40-foot birdie putt on the last hole and was like giddy about like with his dad, like slapping his ass and shit, like being like best friends. Like who gives a fuck?
Yeah. I
It's
couldn't agree
crazy
more.
to me.
I couldn't agree more. And like you just said, for all you know, that could have been Tiger could have had a great session with his dad and met a new kid. And then they went home and had a great dinner. And Tiger's like, that's one of the best days of my childhood. And they paint it like everyone's about to die. Like it's some horrific tragedy. And you're like, no, like, so I completely agree. I thought that they were very clearly trying to paint something. And if you're going to, like, you just needed more time if you're really going to try to get to the bottom of all of that. And you're really going to try to showcase why Tiger Woods is the way that he is. And there's always going to be a tragic underlining in like mega celebrities and how they essentially become, outcasts, right? Like the most famous, popular outcasts in the world. And that like, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to grow up as a normal person when you are surrounded by adulation, endless coverage, because you literally can't become a normal person. You can't go to Chuck E. Cheese. You can't go out and just hang out. Like you're Tiger fucking Woods. Everyone's taking pictures of you all the time. All he wants to do eventually, and all of those act as walls that just close him in to where he wants to fucking sit at home, play video games, practice golf, go out with women, like whatever the hell he wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do because he didn't want to go outside because there's cameras and everybody's shoving shit in his face all the time. So like, yes, you have to paint that to a degree. And I thought they did a pretty good job of that. But like eventually, there was the clip where the young kid asked him at one point, like, I guess you're pretty used to this, aren't you? And Tiger looked at him and was like, you never get used to this. And like, I thought that like stuff like that was fascinating footage that I wish they allowed that type of footage without music underneath it to paint the picture rather than them sort of directing it and directing your brain into a certain place. If you're watching it as a relatively, uneducated on Tiger Woods' full life viewer, you probably have a more full picture now. I could get that you're a little bit more sympathetic to the whole situation. I think most people were, but like we already went through that when we read the book, and like you got the whole picture painted of like, to a degree, Tiger didn't really have a ton of a choice. Like this was what his life was going to be. He didn't have a choice to be normal. And ultimately with the comeback and with his relationship with Charlie and with Sam and with his kids and his relationship with the Justin Thomases of the world, like he's always going to be a little bit robotic, but he seems to be enjoying a lot more of the things in life that like we all enjoy and that we realize are more important than just winning golf tournaments. But it's always going to be an element of, we actually don't want Tiger to be that normal, right? Like we selfishly, like if you tell me Earl Woods was this horrific, detrimental father that built a machine that didn't allow that kid to be a normal person, I'm like, thank God he did that, because otherwise I wouldn't be a Tiger Woods fan.
He'll never answer it, but like if you give Tiger a billion other chances to be any other person than Tiger Woods the exact same way it happened, I just don't think he chooses anything else. Like, hey, Tiger, you get to grow up like a regular kid and play soccer and fucking like go be an accountant somewhere. Like, or you can be Tiger fucking Woods with ups and the downs and everything else. And your fucking son, Charlie Woods, is now Charlie fucking Woods, who's going to be the next best. Like, his life's pretty goddamn great if you really think about it. And Earl Woods like pushed this fucking kid that was just a little fucking 2-year-old onto a TV show. And he turned out to be fucking Tiger Woods. Like, cry me a river that he fucking, like, he's Tiger Woods. Like, I don't know, man. It's like,
no, those are the questions you could ask him if he would ever be involved in a project like that. Because
feeling bad for Tiger Woods turning into Tiger Woods. Yeah. He's Tiger Woods. He's the best of all time. He's the most famous person in the world for good and bad. But like, that's just what he is.
The main part that made me the saddest was when they did discuss, like, okay, he got to 15 majors, but like he needed to get to 19. So like, was it all kind of worth it type thing where it's like, if he had 24 majors and 110 wins, it's like, okay, fine. See, but there's always this fucking, which actually kind of like mobilized me. And I wanted to start firing out tweets like, Tiger's the greatest of all time. Fuck you. Like that we have to sort of carry that torch and fight for Tiger forever. That like, there can't be a discussion. He has to just be the greatest of all time. Jack's at 18, Tiger's at 15, but Tiger went through everything, So, was it self-inflicted though? So that's his fault. Like Tiger Woods is just the greatest. There's we can't allow that narrative that he's not to ever be even in question, because that's what makes it all worth it, right? Like fucking those clips of him Charlie Rose, whoever he was talking to, where it's like, would you rather have 100 wins or 19 majors? He's just like 19. Like I just need to have the most majors of all time because I want to be the greatest. That's why I do everything. That ultimately is like, we have to carry that torch. We have to defend forever that Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer of all time. And there's nobody else even in the discussion.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree actually wholeheartedly with all of your points about like how it was done. Frankie, I didn't pick up on the music as much, but like that makes sense that you would, because I do think it was obviously swayed to a way that is exactly how you guys laid out. And it's sad that, I wish they had gone the way of like, oh, he broke through at the Tour Championship, East Lake, and he was actually like emotionally moved by all the people coming out and supporting him after everything he's gone through. But it didn't go that way, which was obviously upsetting. My only question is, do you think, and I think the answer is 100% no, but do you guys think this will spur anybody else to do a Tiger Woods documentary in a different light that sheds light on some of those factors? Because obviously this was almost like a click piece, like honestly, like it was not informative to a real Tiger Woods fan, and I don't know if there will ever be. And I'm just wondering if this piece will spur movement of, hey, we should do something that really shows Tiger's career and what he went through and the positive light behind it.
He's writing his own book, right? So like, and that's what, like, didn't he tease that like last year, and it's going to be in a couple of years or whatever, and like maybe something spurs from that.
And I will say this, that the book, which we do our fun little bit about, the book Tiger Woods is actually in a lot of ways what we were describing the documentary should have been. And you have obviously a lot more room in a book. You can just make it as long and detailed as you want. And like the thousands of hours of footage that they studied and books and interviews and all this stuff that they did about as comprehensive of a job of telling the full Tiger Woods story as you can do. But to present that in, a television documentary form where you really bolster it is with the interviews, right? Like that's where the layers and the depth of it comes from. And when those interviews are largely like Rachel Yucatel and his high school girlfriend, that just makes it seem like his life is so much more skewed towards the salacious than towards the accomplishments, when really that's just not the case.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully one day we'll get it.
Hopefully one day we'll get it. We'll probably have to put this in earlier, but we can just talk about Whoop twice if you'd like to. 15% off going on right now with the code FOREPLAY at checkout if you go to whoop.com. Whoop has a long-term partnership now with the PGA Tour and the PGA Tour champions. So maybe when Lurch gets out there, it'll be a natural partnership for the two of them. But Whoop has that for a reason, right? Like these guys, some of the best athletes, or at least the biggest and most accomplished golfers in the world will be rocking the Whoop bands. JT's talked about it a lot. Rory's talked about it a lot. We've talked about it a lot because it's awesome. It tracks all the data from your body, from your recovery, your sleep, your strain. Frankie's strain after playing hockey one time, roller hockey, is through the roof, I believe.
It's through the roof. I mean, I wish I almost didn't do it because it's showing just how bad. I got used to such a low strain, like consistency. And I threw one day of 1 hour of heart pumping activity, and it's thrown my statistics off for a loop like you wouldn't believe. I mean, the band is like, where was that? Where's last Tuesday again? Like, can we get working? Because like we have all this technology and this little thing on your wrist here, and you're just not utilizing any of it. So I got to get back to that because I really, really miss seeing those numbers go up. I felt like a good human being.
It is a great feeling when those numbers go up. And it's a bad one, that they can, but that they're not. So go to whoop.com, use the code FOREPLAY at checkout, you get yourself 15% off. It's great. We all rock them. We love them. I check it every single morning when I wake up. How much sleep did I get? How prepped is my body for the day? It really teaches you to create habits that are good for your body and that will actually optimize your performance in life, not just in athletics or working out or fitness, but just being ready for the workday, for a full round of 36 holes with the board, like whatever the hell it might be. Whoop's gonna literally, you don't have a choice. Like, you just have to figure out how to have better habits and how to do better things for your body, because you get the data right away, and you have to just figure it out, or you'll be pathetic. So whoop.com, use the code FOREPLAY at checkout, you get yourself 15% off. Kevin Na won on the PGA Tour this weekend. One of the more shocking stats I've seen. So this is his 5th win on tour, his 4th since 2018, the most wins since 2018 on the PGA Tour. I saw a tweet. I couldn't find it again, but I think that the numbers were DJ has like 8, JT has 6, Rory has 5, and Kevin Na has 4, are like the leaders in the most wins on the PGA Tour in the last, 2.5 years. Tiger Woods has 3, by the way, so he's right there. But amazing from Kevin Na. What an interesting character. We actually had him on the show 2 or 3 years ago, Trent and myself. I think he told us, so we asked him about, the swing yips when he couldn't pull the trigger at the Players Championship at Sawgrass in like 2011 or 2013, whenever that was. And I think that he hates that question so much that he told Trent and I that, like, we're pretty much terrible interviewers because we asked that question. You remember that, Trent?
I vividly remember that. He hated that question.
It's a tough one to
Here
forget.
we go. Like, I'm Kevin Na. I'm a professional golfer. I got other things I want to talk about other than the yips I had. But that was like the first thing. And he was like, these fucking assholes. They pulled up my Wikipedia, and that was the only thing they read. Yeah, no, he did not like that question at all.
No, he hated it, but which I actually loved. Like his that aggressive of a response was very, very, very funny for me, because clearly he just despises that. But to Kevin Na's credit, like, he fixed it. I remember he very much acknowledged that it was driving people crazy. Like, dude, they would fucking cut to him. Boy, is he gonna hate that we're talking about this, but they would cut to him at the Players that year, and he was like, he could have won the Players. He was right there. He's leading. They would cut to him, and like the producers couldn't figure out when he was actually going to hit. So times they would cut to him, and he just would be standing there doing the little waggle thing for like 20 seconds. And then they'd have to cut to some, like, oh, I guess we'll go to fucking Streelman's putt on 9. Well, and then they'd cut back to him, and like, they just didn't know when he was going to finally hit the ball. And it drove people watching fucking crazy. To his credit, he acknowledged it, fixed it, doesn't have that situation anymore, and is rebranding himself as the guy that walks in putts like a lunatic and now wins golf tournament. So good for Kevin Na.
He's walking in everything. I mean, that is now like almost his yip, where he doesn't take time over the ball, but he just walks in every putt. It's almost ridiculous how much he's walking it in, but power to him. It was a great finish, actually, yesterday. There was a bunch of people in the mix. Joakim Niemann was right there again. He like chipped in on 17. That was incredible.
That's
not how you say it.
What?
How did you say it?
Joakim Niemann.
Joakim Niemann, not Joakim Niemann.
Did I?
You turned him into like a third-line winger for the Rangers.
So honestly, I was thinking about just saying Mr. Chili because
Louis Oosthuizen.
You were saying like Joakim Noah.
Yeah, maybe I did. My mistake.
Louis Oosthuizen.
That's why I
Louis Oosthuizen. Can we put that clip in here?
Please put that in.
Him as Mr. Chili.
We got Louis Oosthuizen.
Oosthuizen's in at no, he's not in. He's still on the course. Louis Oosthuizen's now 7 under.
All right, well, screw you. He played great, and he shot. I think that's 8 rounds under par for the kid, and it was a good finish yesterday.
He is playing great.
So
Joakim Niemann
right there.
Plus, he's got his action where he just throws his whole head behind the golf ball is fantastic. Like, it's one of those swings that I feel like that's what I would need to do to hit the ball far, is to just lunge everything I've got head. It's not like a Rory swing where it's effortless power. It seems like he's digging into the reserves on every swing, and I love that.
Who was the relief pitcher? I think he might have pitched for the Yankees. Or no, was it the Red Sox? He'd throw a pitch and his whole head would go down. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I'm trying to think of his name. There's also
Robert Chamberlain?
No.
Who was the pitcher for the A's?
Orlando Hernandez? Chad Bradford?
I want to say
Bradford's the guy in the A's. Are you talking about El Duque? Orlando Hernandez? He put his leg all the way up over his head?
No, there was a pitcher. I'm pretty sure he was a relief pitcher for the Red Sox, who, when he threw the ball, his entire head, it felt like his head was going to hit the ground. He was headbanging every time he threw a pitch. I'm going to try and find it.
Real
Sorry.
quick, while we're looking that up, the actual full stats from the most wins in the PGA Tour since the beginning of 2018. Producer Jake found this. DJ's got 8, JT 6, Bryson 6, Brooks 5, Rory 5, Kevin Na 4, John Rahm 4. So since the beginning of 2018, that motherfucker Kevin Na is in the same breath at the top of that list. He's tied with Rahm. He's 1 behind Rory and Brooks, 2 behind JT and Bryson, and the only guy at number 1 with 8 is DJ. That's stunning that Kevin Na is up there.
Yeah, I mean he's got his logo is him picking up he's picking up the ball early on the back of his shirt. So I mean that guy's cocky right now, and I love it. Kevin Na.
He also does the
fucking
same
swag
thing.
back.
He was saying the same things as kids. He's like, I got to pick the courses that I can play. I got to pick the courses that I can win at. And like, as you know, they get up in their years and potentially can't hit it as far or see others just ripping it past them. It is, I mean, it's obviously makes sense, but pretty methodical about the courses he plays to continue to win and continue to play well. So anyways, congrats to him.
Who's the headbanger, Trent?
Hideki Okajima.
Is that him?
Yeah. I'm looking at his highlights right now. He would throw, he's a lefty for the Red Sox. He would throw and his head would just go completely to the right.
God, he disappeared. He was he was one of the top relief pitchers in the world and then now just gone.
His action reminds me of Joaquin Neiman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that's a good call.
Joaquin Neiman.
We've mentioned Kiz a few times. He did go viral in his presser last week, Tuesday or Wednesday, right after we ended up putting out the show. But great stuff. He's finished in the top 3 or the top 5 a bunch at the Sony, so that's why they decided to interview him. I was surprised because Kiz just doesn't get press conference all the time, like ever. So it's like, why the fuck are they talking to Kiz before the tournament? But he has a good record out there. Last year, I believe he was in the final threesome. So anyways, they're talking to him and this guy goes on this long thing about how you can, and then he finishes it with like, you can win anywhere, can't you? And Kiz is like, nope, probably not. And he says, I can't win at Bethpage Black, can't win at Torrey Pines. The guy says, then why show up? Kiz goes, they give out a lot of money for 20th place. This got picked up everywhere. Very classic Kevin Kisner type quote. This week, I believe 20th place was right around $87,000 or so. Kiz ended up, I think he ended up winning around 30 something, 37K maybe. He didn't have his best week, even though he shot like 12 under par and still finished like 40th, whatever the hell it was. Kiz's career earnings are $23 million in 238 events. He's got 3 wins, 15 top 3s. He very nearly won the Players' Championship in 2015 when he lost to Ricky in a playoff. Sergio Garcia was also in that playoff. But Kiz is doing just fine with the cash flow, and he knows it. And that $23 million in career earnings as a 36-year-old or whatever he is, pretty fucking good for our guy Kiz.
It really is that easy to be likable as a professional athlete. Like an answer like that, like I think, especially in golf, Tiger has spawned a generation that when asked a question like that, they say, no, I win. I'm here to win. I want to win. That's why I come to these tournaments. When in actuality, the only person who should be allowed to answer a question like that is Tiger Woods, because he is that good. Everybody else is out there to hopefully make a living. And yeah, if you win, you play well enough, you put 4 rounds together and you get a dub, the checks are obviously bigger. But I'd say most guys are out there like Kevin Kisner being like, I come to these tournaments because I happen to be good at golf and I can place in such a way that I can take home money and live a life as a professional golfer. Like that's just such a normal answer. And it's why Kevin Kisner has become one of the most liked guys on tour, because that's a real answer that he gave.
No, you go.
John Rahm, dude, look at how good John Rahm is. Think about how good he's been for the last 3-4 years. Okay. He's since the beginning of 2018. So literally 3 years, John Rahm's probably played in at least 60, 70, 80, 90 events in the last 3 years. If he plays 20 something a year, he's got 4 wins. 4. Think about how fucking good he is. Like he is so good. Think about what it took to win too. That bomb that he made at the BMW in the playoff to beat Dustin Johnson. Like that's what it takes to win. And he's one of the best in the world. So like, yeah, no shit. You're not going to win every fucking week that you tee it up, especially when you're Kevin Kisner, you're hitting at 280. You got Bryson hitting at 380. It's like, no fucking shit. Yet he's found a way. He's extremely good at the game of golf. He's like 25th in the world. He has won 3 times. And there's certain tournaments that he could win. You're so right, Trent, and that it's just pretty fucking easy to be likable, and so many guys make it really hard.
It's honest. That's an honest answer. Saying you're going to win
Yes.
is dishonest unless you're Tiger Woods or the current form of Dustin Johnson. Everybody else is being dishonest.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
and it was so fitting. They showed a picture of him and Streelman and the other, maybe Swafford. No, it couldn't have been Swafford. Anyways, of the UJ Bulldogs. And Kisner looks like he's such a little like shit back in his college days talking nonsense. But then so fitting, he makes an eagle putt to make the cut and he finishes T32 this week. Like, that's just a guy on tour that, hey, yeah, he's not winning, but he is making money week over week and a good check. And I just love the fact that he rolled in like a 20-footer for eagle to make the cut, walks over, gives Dewey a pound, on to another weekend, on to another paycheck. Just perfect. I love that guy.
Like, that is a guy, that's a team, right? Kiz and Dewey, who, like, you might not see him on television once. Typically, on any given weekend, he ain't doing press conferences. He's not doing interviews. For all intents and purposes, unless you had his ass starred on your PGA Tour scoring app, you wouldn't even know he's still alive. And that motherfucker is out there finishing 17th, 24th, 32nd, and he's racking it up. And every year he comes in with several $1 million. You add that up over a 10, 15-year career. Guy's got $23 million already, and that's just from on-course earnings. That's a guy that's his career. He goes to work. You might forget about him, yet he's cashing fucking checks and making a ton of money, and then living in Aiken, South Carolina, where, you know, a janitor salary in New York and you're the richest guy in town, and Kevin Kisner comes in fucking gloating with his $23 million of career earnings. He's living like a king and you wouldn't even notice it. It's amazing.
Yeah, power to him. Power to him. It's really exceptional what he's doing, and the level of honesty is amazing, because I think, like, at first it caught the individual who asked the question like off guard, like, how can you say that? But by the time he's done answering, you're like, 100%, I would trade shoes with you any day of the week. Like, this is great. You're spot on. Like, you're going to make $40,000 this week.
It actually makes me feel better too, because there was a time a couple of years ago on this podcast where we had the running joke where it wasn't even a joke really, because he kept finishing T21, T23, T24, and we said it was the greatest streak in sports. And it was, but I always felt nervous bringing that up to Kiz, because obviously he wants to win, but he can't win every week. But it's good to know now that he feels the same way. He's like, yeah, when I finish T22nd and I take home tens of thousands of dollars, I'm just as happy.
Shout out to Lurchie's Loose Picks. I had Perez, top 40, plus 200. Then I had Hudson Swafford, another Georgia boy, T40, T30, both those hits.
I noticed you don't shout out Lurch's Loose Picks every week. It's just when you have a good week.
No, I mean, this is on brand. I took Kisner. No, so I missed on Kisner. Okay. I took Kisner top 30, and he finishes T32. So that was outside of the money. But
this feels,
shout him out every week if you'd like.
This feels a lot like Lurch being in the group chat being like, when's that Joel Damon video coming out?
Yeah.
I hit a couple of good iron shots in that one. I want that one to come out soon.
That's exactly what that feels like.
You guys always put a negative spin on. You know, I'm here just spreading good cheer and good love, and all I get is negativity from the trio.
Is that a bunny rabbit over your left shoulder there? What's that? Was that
Dude, actually, I found this. This is from Australia. This is a kangaroo I bought in the airport on the way home from Australia.
That thing.
I don't know.
The boomerang.
Comes out
Is that a Christmas gift? Was that a Christmas gift or something?
This was a Christmas gift that I put in my golf bag to United that never showed up for 100 years. So I didn't end up giving it to my brother's kids, and just, you know, now it's just sitting around, but I'll give it to him maybe at a later date.
Nice. I will say I got a video yesterday from my brother of my little nephew Robbie playing with my toy that I got him for Christmas, and him calling it his favorite toy that he has. And I can't tell you, as a uncle who just, you come in a couple times a year and you try to be the hero, and like, you never know what you're going to get. Like, sometimes you might get something and he fucking throws it in the trash and is like, this thing sucks. And then he starts playing with a blanket or something. And other times, man, when you get the right toy and he loves it, what a thrill that was.
One year I swooped in and I gave my nephew Grand Theft Auto as a video game. And I'm still the king. I'm still the king. He was definitely too young to play that video game, but I'm like the uncle that moved away. I live in the Big Apple. I'm not there all that often. And then I just had this package, Grand Theft Auto, and I'm the favorite uncle until the end of time now. The way to
Dude, that's huge. That's all you're trying to do.
get them
And
age inappropriate gifts, I guess.
I will say
Yeah.
it's not easy getting gifts for youngsters. Like when you're searching on the web, like it's not the easiest thing in the world. I bought my brother's kid, my little niece, one of those little mini trampolines with a net all around it, and she loves it. You can grab a little handrail and you just kind of bounce there forever. But it is super hard to find a gift. So I would actually appreciate your guys' insight for the next round of holidays in terms of what we're getting, because it seems like a lot of us are settling into this uncle role and not so much having a family of our own. So we might have to talk about what we
You
should
always
get.
gotta ask the mom, like you gotta ask the mom or the dad, like what they're into at the time.
Right.
Like my sister will always say, like, "Oh, like Tommy's really into this like show," and then you just get like a bunch of stuff from that show, whether it's like
That's what I
the
did
plush
this year.
toys or whatever. But just yesterday was my nephew's birthday, and we dropped off like a magician's set with just had like a big
What'd you
top
say?
hat and a magician's set. It's a
almost
hard
said
set. Magician set. And like she sent us a picture of just like he's just not playing with it. My niece is playing with it. So like it's just never gonna be his ever. And
I
it's
went
over,
ham
so.
on the Paw Patrol this year. I bought everything
that's a
under the
big
sun
one.
from the show.
Paw Patrol's huge. They love that shit.
Yeah.
So Robbie now is into dinosaurs, and dude, the dinosaur toys, the Jurassic Park series is so good that they've got little like QR codes on the bottom of their legs and feet and shit. And they have an app. So my brother has the app, and whenever he gets a toy, Robbie, who's 4, is like, scan them. And so you scan them into the app, and then the app pulls up footage and like a bio of the dinosaur and tells you all about it. So then when I go home, he's like, oh yeah, the Mosasaurus, Uncle Ray, like the Mosasaurus, actually the biggest in the sea. And you're like, how the fuck do you know that? And he's got this app with all the information about all his dinosaurs. It's outrageous.
That's nuts.
That's awesome.
There were-
Dude, little kids are the best, man. Little kids are tremendous.
Yeah.
My little niece the other day told my brother, she goes, "Yeah, you think you're fun, Daddy," or "You think you're funny," which was like hysterical, just like her like jabbing back at my dad. It's like she's like, or my brother, she's 3 or whatever she is. It's amazing. I love little kids.
Kids,
We
that-
gave
No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
oh God. All right, you gotta get off this now because that hurt. That silence was brutal.
You're so sensitive. Just the most sensitive cat in the world.
How does that come out of what I just said? How is that me being sensitive?
It's 2 people trying to communicate on Zoom. Who cares? And then there's like one little iota of silence.
Wait a minute, coming from the guy that literally sends notes and messages because he doesn't want to speak over people to say he's got to leave.
Well, I'm not going to interrupt all of a sudden when somebody's talking.
You
and
just
say, "I have to
interrupted
leave."
Trent trying to speak.
No, I didn't. Even Trent shrugs his shoulders like you're an idiot for that comment.
This is
And
weird.
usually the 2 of you are
Jen are just watching.
in
We're
cahoots
just watching
together.
what's happening.
This is weird.
Go
I feel
Rangers.
weird. Go Islanders.
Oh,
Fuck the Rangers. They're an absolute joke.
After the Blues got beat by the Avalanche by a score of 8-0, I just got a text from Devontae that just said "snowman."
Holy smokes.
I went back and forth with him too. He was like, hopefully Riggsy didn't cry as we just pounded the Blues the other day. I thought it was a 5-rip score. I looked back at the score sheet after. I couldn't believe it was 8-rip.
Well, I did feel bad because in our first game, like
He got popped.
we've been chirping each other for months leading up to this. And then in the first shift of the first game, he gets like a shoulder to the head and had to go do concussion protocol and miss like the whole first period. So I just texted him, and it was awkward because then the Blues won like 4-1. So I was like, he might have a concussion and they lost, so I'm not going to say anything. So I waited until the next day and just texted him, was like, hope your dome's okay. And we were fine. And then he texted me after the game Friday night and just said, snowman. That's
It's a great chirp.
and he scored the 8th goal, I think. So that was real tough.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But I think all of our
fucking-
squads are 1-1. Is that right?
1-1. We're playing the Bruins in a couple hours here. That Ranger Island game, that was quite the flip flop from game 1 to game 2. And you know what's so funny is like everyone forgets that just 3 or 4 months ago I was this crazy about my responses after game one are like, who the fuck is this guy going so crazy after game one? Like, welcome to the show. I mean, I was going crazy game 27 4 years ago at this office. So like, this isn't nothing new. And sure, I said like the Rangers are an absolute joke in their little brother, and I stand by that regardless of the outcome of game two. The Islanders have carried New York hockey for the last 3 years. There's no denying that.
While we're discussing little kids in sports, that clip of Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Brees' kids, and Tom hanging, throwing passes to that. Like, we talk about some things. Shout out to Rico Bosco. Some things are bigger than sports. Like, that was such a heartfelt moment after the game of like Tom looking like $8 billion after winning a game, and he's got like his cool bag and his nice outfit, and he's Tom Brady, the like GQ fucking greatest of all time ever. And here he is just dropping everything to throw dimes into the end zone to Drew Brees' kids. Like, that was an awesome moment.
It makes Drew Brees look like a little baby too. He's like, Drew Brees is so small next to fucking Tom Brady. It's almost embarrassing too. When they hug, he almost lifted Drew up like off his toes. And if you have to lift up another man, especially a competitor, it's over. Like, that's, if you're hugging Drew and you just give him just a little bit of a raise and his toes just kind of just raise off the ground, it's just, see you later, pal. Good night. Yeah, just his legs are just dangling. He's like, let me go. He just lets him go and then throws a touchdown to his son and leaves. Man,
Him picking up that bag and just walking off into the sunset. I'll never ever come close to being that cool ever doing anything.
That's a movie scene. Like, you'd think that the camera would be where Drew was, and Tom's has the bag. He's walking towards the tunnel, and then Drew goes, Tom, and he turns around, yeah, kid, and he's like, thanks, and then he just goes off into the distance or something. Like, that's what that was. Grabbing that bag. It's like, it's, what am I thinking of? Field of Dreams almost, where it's just like, hey, Dad, like, want to have a catch, like something like that. That was the feeling I got where Tom was walking out onto the Super Bowl, the conference championship, and Drew's just done. Oh man, tough way for Drew Brees to go out.
Yeah, it was a great clip. Tough for Drew Brees, true, but it is what it is. So, I will say this past weekend, as a guy who self-admittedly misses a lot of football, this past weekend is so good when they've got the two divisional games. It's just like the best fucking day for watching sport. And there's nothing else. Like, there's nothing else in the world because it's fucking January and you're cold and you can't go outside, all the things that we've talked about, and you just get hit with an awesome weekend of viewing. It's great. So this past weekend was sweet. That clip was a great way to wrap it up. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's all I got.
Wait, really quickly, we got to talk about this Lido Golf Club because I saw it on here and I'm getting tagged.
Oh, yeah. Did you read any of that, Frankie?
Dude, this is the craziest shit. You know when you say a word? Dude, you know when you say like a name or a word or a movie and then like somehow that just comes up the next day? Bro, I played Lido Golf Club on 2K, PGA Tour 2K21. I made it a fucking society event. I started telling the story on stream with Trent 3 days ago, about this amazing story that Lido Golf Club is a golf club on Long Island right now. It's in Lido Beach, and it's replicated in a different area from the original one. The original one was built in like 1914 or something. I think that's actually correct. And it's a C.B. McDonald Rayner golf course with Alistair McKenzie, who like submitted plans for like certain holes that should have happened. It was known as the greatest golf course in the world, like the nicest one. It was like the crown jewel of Northeast golf, like in America. It was on the beach. It looks like fucking like I don't know how to explain it. It almost looks like Seminole. And like, it's just crazy. It's just green grass in the middle of a beach with the ocean. And it's unbelievable. And it just unfortunately came to its like rise during like World War I. So like all of like the attention in the area like went towards like making that area like a field for like materials and like building stuff for the war. And then they like actually like, then the Depression hit and it just got fucking slammed and it never made it. And during World War II, they just scrapped the golf course for like a war area for just building shit in Long Beach and Lido Beach. And it never made it back. Now, like to this day, there's a town of Lido that just sits on top of this all-time golf course. Like there's literally like Fairway Road, and the high school, Lido Beach High School, like sits on top, or is it Long Beach High School? I guess Long Beach High School sits on top of like where like the most famous hole on the golf course was. Like the whole high school is on there. The clubhouse is still there to this day. It's like an amazingly ridiculous structure. So now I'm getting tagged that who is it? Sand Valley is just
So Sand Valley. Yeah. So Sand Valley, which is Mike Kaiser, same guy, same developer, same family that built Bandon Dunes, that built Cabot, built Sand Valley. Lurch and I went there a couple of years ago. It's really, really cool. But there's this, and Frankie, you know a lot more about it than I do, but there's this mysterious kind of mystique in the golf world about Lido Golf Club. And it was at the time, and Andy over at the Fried Egg did a great piece. I think he broke this news that, and I had heard this like a year or so ago, but I didn't really know anything about Lido. So I was like, whatever. But they're essentially taking this iconic golf course that was at the time, they said it was ranked number 2 in the world behind Pine Valley. That was like the only course that was considered better than this course, and that it could overtake it, but that it was new and whatever. And it clearly became lost. You just explained it. They built the town on top of it, and it's just fucking gone. But people rave about it, and there's photos, and they try to piece it back together. Well, they literally utilized this crew that's like putting it back together and going to build essentially a replica and like recreate it in Wisconsin, right around the Sand Valley area, part of Sand Valley's resort. And there's like it's going to be kind of semi-private. You can read all about it, but they literally this guy used all the evidence and photos and went onto the Golf Club Atlas website and then utilized the software on the golf club, which of course is now PGA Tour 2K21, to build a virtual version of the golf course as close as like humanly possible to the actual thing, that then drew the attention of like Tom Doak and a bunch of legitimate players in the golf course design and architecture world, that they have combed through the digital version of the game, of the course on the game, and are utilizing that to like actually recreate and rebuild the golf course, not on Long Island, but in fucking Wisconsin.
Dude,
No
the
way.
technology in 2K and the builder is the best simulation in video games. Like there's like truck driving simulators. There's like Long Island Railroad simulators. The fact that you can build to the actual fucking inch the exact golf courses based off of like LiDAR stuff. Like if you have PGA Tour 2K21 on your PC, you can get these systems, like a LiDAR system, where you take topography of the actual land that it was on and you put it into the game, and it grows out like the exact. So like someone did like Wingfoot, and it's just Wingfoot, like the exact same spot that a mound would push a ball into the right, into the rough, is in the game. Now it's your job to like now go in and paint the fairway and the rough and put the trees in the spot, but it builds the exact one. So someone did this with Lido, getting the exact dimensions, exactly perfect. And now it's amazing that someone's, because I've always said like can my new course, Butters Bay, just become a golf course? And the answer is yes, because we're building it to specs of a real golf course. Like you could just take the specs in the video game, go find land and do it. Like the fairways are all the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could just do it. Just like, it's crazy that 2K, or the golf club really, which is a small little Nova Scotian gaming community that fucking came up with this game. The fact that they have such a high powered engine to make golf courses is amazing to me. If you don't have 2K at this point and you're a golf fan, you have any sort of system, PlayStation, Xbox, or PC, I think that you have like something wrong with you. It is. To be able to go and build your own golf course is the most fun thing of all time.
And I will say the ability to essentially build on the game versions of real golf courses and how accurate they are. Like we've been to Cabot a couple times and they have Cabot Cliffs on there, and it's the golf course like that. But that was just a flat blank piece of nothing in a video game creation golf course design software feature. And they just created the exact golf course. And they've done that for hundreds and hundreds. It's like, and now it's so good that it's leading to the recreation in real life of one of the most mysterious and iconic golf courses ever created.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get into the mix with this, because like the whole Long Island, like I've known about this. Like there's a Lido Golf Club that's already there, maybe like a couple miles east or whatever of where the original one was. They tried to like replicate it or like honor it in some sort of way, and it's just a muni course that's like has just it's got a couple holes that you can see like, oh, there's like a 2-tiered fairway with a bridge that goes over it, which I think was one of the Alistair McKenzie holes. So yeah, it's really cool that they're making it. And if you guys look at the pictures and the renderings and actually go on 2K and type in Lido Golf Club, you can go play it to the point where like this is what they're building it off of. You can go play it right now. Like this thing that they saw, guys can go play on 2K. Like, so it's really, really cool. And check out Butters Bay because that thing's looking fucking pristine soon. It's not out yet, but
hell yeah. All right. We'll be back on Thursday. Fun, like 2.5 hour show that we did here. So who knows?
Yeah.
You just never know what the fuck you're going to get. Thanks for listening. Thank you to Jake and to Brendan, our producers. We'll be back on Thursday. Hit it hard.
Darn.
Hit it hard.